What's going on over here? First day was kind of a shitty day here. What's going on with these connection problems today? Sprint Wireless must be having some issues. Today, head to the gym. We got back and chest today. I'm starting to put a little size back on now for a movie role that I have called Skynet Rising. Can't say a whole lot about it because we signed a non-disclosure agreement about the script, but the role calls for me to be a little bit bigger, and I explained to them I could either go up or down 10 pounds in the amount of time that we had. And he said, bigger is better for this one. So here we are, back to putting the muscle on. What's going on out there with you guys? Hope you guys are doing well. Oh, thanks, Ethan. I appreciate that, man. Banned on Instagram, anyways. YouTube still letting me hang out for a while, I guess. I guess I haven't gotten too crazy on YouTube yet, so they just let it go. So what's going on out there, guys? It's Monday, new week. Mondays are usually pretty kind of mellow for me, you know. I appreciate it. Have a blessed day yourself, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. Running burn muscle mass. Oh, does running burn muscle mass? Well, I wouldn't say running burns muscle mass. What I would say is your diet is going to burn muscle mass. So what I mean by that is, you know, whatever exercise you do, whatever activity you do, whatever you're doing, it has to be supported by your diet, right? So if you're burning muscle, what does that mean? It means that your body doesn't have enough amino acids to consistently keep the muscle mass that you have. So is the solution to stop doing what you're doing, which is running, or is the solution to increase your amino acid uptake and keep running? To me, very simple solution: increase the amino acid content of your diet and keep up the running if that's what you're doing, right? People all the time are like, oh, you don't want to diet too much and diet down and lose muscle. I'm like, listen, I completely understand the whole, losing muscle thing. Like, it's actually, it's not fun to lose muscle. But, Cadillo, what's up, man? But if you're losing muscle, like, not on purpose, then it's your diet and it's not your training. Today I'm going to go train chest and back. So my advice would be to check your diet, see what's lacking. I mean, that's if you're even burning muscle. Watched the videos about 8 years ago. Yeah, man, it's been a while since I've been doing this. It's a real trip is you have people saying stuff like, I used to watch you when I was a kid. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what does that even mean? And then I realized, well, like 10 years ago, they were 12. And now they're 22. So they were a kid. And I was like, wow. Like, nothing makes you feel older than when you have a 22-year-old standing there saying, I used to watch you when I was a kid. I was a big fan when I was a kid. And you're like, I just saw something about close grip bench presses. Let me see what that's about. This is, how much can I close grip bench press? Probably nothing now. I mean, shit. At this point, I don't bench press or anything like that. It doesn't really matter what you can and can't bench. Like at my best look, I probably could bench the least. At my biggest and most bloated and fat, I could bench the most. So it didn't really matter. But my bench was always very strong. There's a video of me on YouTube right now. The week before I tore my pec, I had not been on a bench in about 8 years, maybe a little longer. So I tore my rotator cuff and my bicep tendon on the right side. And anytime I tried to bench press, it hurt. It caused pain. I was like, well, I just don't need to be doing that, So after a while, I was using all these machines, they're like pin selectors, and I was using the whole stack. And I was like, you know what, let me just see. And that day, and there's a video up of it, I walked over and I did 225 for like 15 or 20 or something like that. And it was light. It was like I was benching air. And I was like, holy shit, I didn't have any pain. I felt good. I got a great pump. I felt strong for the first time in like 8 years because I was benching again. And, that led me to going, hey, I think I'm going to move back up to 405. 405 was not, 400 pounds was not a hard bench for me. Like that was my average bench every single week for 4 or 5 reps, and I could have done more, but that was a consistent bench. It wasn't like I hit it once. I hit 495 once, so I wouldn't consider that what I benched. But 405, I've done it for as many as 8 reps, 9 reps in the gym, unassisted, and it was every week. It was consistent. So for me, 225, it was like, of course I can hit 405. I haven't even benched in 8 years. Let me get some time under the bench again, and let me see what I can do. And I was excited because I really enjoyed the bench press. I really liked the bench press. I was strong at it, and I was very, very weak at it when I first started training. It was probably my worst lift when I started training, and I made it my best lift by the time I wound up being the biggest that I'd gotten. And I was excited. It was 225 for that many reps. It was like nothing. And my goal that day was to bench 135 for 3 sets and see how it felt. See how that felt on my rotator cuff. See how my body felt in general. I haven't done anything like that in quite a while, and everything actually felt good. So I returned home that night, excited, motivated, and I told my wife, I told Erin, I said, you know what? The business, I just started the business. I think it'd be great to get my bench back up to the 405, but at my much lower body weight, because I was in the 250s when I was benching it earlier, when I was younger. I said, maybe if I can get back to 405 for one at this body weight, which is about 200 pounds, I said, that's actually more impressive than when I was bigger. And the first thing she said was, you're going to get hurt. Now, some people could say she jinxed me, but she just kind of have an idea of how my attitude was and how motivated I was, how amped up I was, how I was just ready to go. I was going to do this. So she agreed to vlog it with me, and that video was up too. So the one where I tore my pec, that video was her filming while I was benching, and I did 275 for one, nice and easy. Very, very easy rep. No twinges, no problems, and I'm like, okay, I'm already back up to 275. 1 week, and I went from 225, I'm back up to 275. And, of course, it was just one rep. I was trying to save my energy. So I was like, let me see if I get 315 this week, and we'll call it quits this week. That's really good, for 2 bench press sessions in 8 years, and I'm already benching 315. That's a really good start for me. I'll work with that. And sure enough, I get 315 on the bench. I felt like I was warmed up enough. I probably wasn't, to be honest with you. Probably moving too quickly, now that I think about it. And the spotter lifts it off, and I bring the weight down, and that felt light. I was like, oh man, I'm going to hit 405 in within the next couple of weeks. That's how I actually felt. That's what I was thinking when I lowered the weight on that 315. And when I reversed it, about halfway up, the weight didn't get stuck. My pec just ripped. I heard it, I felt it, it rolled up, and I was like, I can't get this thing off my chest now because I was basically pushing with my shoulder and then my other pec. So I was like, shit. I said, take it. And the guy that was spotting me was kind of busy watching the girls. So I told him, I said, look, I'm not going to get buried under this weight. I mean, I just benched 275 clean, it was there's nothing on the bars. So if anything, just stay with me in case I get stuck, but I don't anticipate even that happening. So he thought it was just basically a cut and dry deal where I just get on there and throw the weight up. And I had to let it drop back on my chest because he wasn't taking it. And I was literally doing more damage to that joint. I knew, I was like, my pec is torn, but I'm going to rip that shoulder too if I don't, get this weight off my chest. So I let it drop on my chest, and that slightly tore the other pec. I had a slight tear on the other side too. I didn't know it at the time until it bruised up the next day. And eventually he looked down and said, oh shit, and he pulled the weight off me. And I got up and I knew instantly that my pec's torn. And that was it. So I haven't gone near a bench press since. Actually, that's a lie. That's actually a lie. So a few weeks ago, I've been back in the gym training. I'm able to train heavier again a little bit, and my chest feels good. Well, what I'm doing now, it's mostly machines. It's weight resistance machines that you add the weight to. It's not pin selectors. Using the prime machine, some hammer strength, some cables. I'm doing incline and flat flies with dumbbells again with 30 pounds, which is not a lot. But I'm able to do flat and incline flies, supersetted with dumbbell presses. So you basically use a very light weight. You hit 10 to 12 flies, and then the same weight you drop right into presses and press them out for as many as you can. It's a pre-exhaust technique. And I was like, you know what? I'm feeling pretty good. Let me go see what the bench press feels like. Dumbest thing ever in the history of fucking humans, right? So I walk over the bench. Now, I'm training with Jorge, and Aaron's in the gym training on the other side of the gym. So So I look around, I go over to the bench, and I take the bar. And I lift the bar up, I get in position, and I bring the bar down. And now, meanwhile, I'm having like PTSD. I'm having like a panic attack because I'll be honest with you, for about 3 months after I tore my pec, I would wake up in the middle of the night reliving it. Like I would have nightmares about it. It would ache like when I would lay on it. So like in my dream, it would like bring me to the back to tearing it again. I still haven't seen the video of myself actually tearing it. And I woke up kind of freaked out and stuff. So I'm over there like on the bench press with just the bar. I was like, wow, I have a range of motion back again. And that feels really natural. I didn't add any weight to it. I didn't use any weight. I put the bar back, I stood up, and I went back, walked to where Jorge was, and Erin was suddenly there, like out of the blue. She was like, I'm like, hey, babe. And she's like, what are you doing? I was like, what? I was like, I was just going to get a drink at the water fountain. She's like, you look really, really fucking guilty. She's like, I don't know. Like, I know you, but when you're up to something, you're up to no good. That's the look you have in your face. So what are you doing? And I was like, I just, laid on the bench and I did the bench. And she was like, what do you think? You're going to hurt yourself. I just did the bar. She's like, well, that's how it starts. I'm like, I know. I have no intentions of right now bench pressing again. Does that mean I'm never going to bench press again? I want to say no, but I'm stupid. I'm a guy. I'm stupid. I'm in my 40s. Like, you want to kind of relive to where you were before and see if you still got it and shit like that, right? Gateway bar work. I got to exactly what it is. It's like, so I'm sitting there and I'm like, part of what happened, right? I'll be honest with you guys. I went out, after I tore my pec, I went out to the final LA Fit Expo before quarantine happened a couple of years ago. And I saw my boy Kevin Washington, the Hulk, right? Kevin tore his pec like I did. Same exact tear, the hole in it and everything. And he's still benching like 405 for like 25 reps. And I was like, how the fuck are you doing that? He's like, I don't know, I used to bench 405 for like 50 reps. I said, I know, but it's still like the shoulder joint is not stable now that muscle's gone. And he's like, well, I've just slowly adapted back up to it. So I had it in my head that, like, even with the pec tear, I could still bench. Now, this is probably a very, very bad idea to have in my head. I mean, I'm admitting it right now. This is a stupid idea. But I'm looking at Kevin, and I'm thinking to myself, well, if he can do it, right? That's the crux of my whole life. If he can do it, I can do it. If that person can get it done, I can get it done, right? I understand this is not the way to live. I get it, right? This is just me, though, guys. I mean, I have to tell you, I'm stupid. I take chances, and I live on the edge sometimes. It's just how I am. I've always been that way. So I kind of had in my head that, like, maybe I could start with some hammer strength. And, after that, I started getting away from the selectors and using more of the plate-loaded machines again. And I did. I was getting a little bit stronger. My weight, went back up. I get a little bit thicker through the chest, the shoulders area. I mean, for me, bench pressing, like, you can't get a better upper body exercise than a bench press. It's like the upper body squat. That's just my personal opinion. If you're benching heavy, your shoulders, your arms, your traps, everything looks thick, everything looks full. You get up from a real serious, set of benching with a good amount of weight, your whole upper body's pumped, right? So to me, it's a very, very important exercise when you're trying to build mass and trying to be the biggest that you can be. Just like the squat, just like the chin-up, just like the barbell row. And, I've always had a lot of respect for the bench press because that's the one, me growing up, I was like, how much you bench? That was absolutely the truth. Now, get this. There was a time, another story time for you guys. There was a time that a friend of mine, her stepfather, had this set up in the basement, bench, incline, the whole system. And at the time, I was in high school. I was getting a little bit bigger, I was getting a little bit stronger, and most of my classmates knew that I was really into this weightlifting thing, right? Because I wore like the big baggy shirts and stuff, and I dressed like a bodybuilder even though I was 135 pounds. So I'm now up to about 140, 145 pounds, right? So undeniably, I put on about 10 pounds of good lean weight, which is very noticeable to my classmates. So I go over to her house, and her stepfather is talking, and he's like, "Oh, so you're getting into working out?" I said, "Yeah, Now, mind you, I already had a good 15 pounds on him now at this point. He was a smaller guy. She said, "Oh, what do you bench?" Right? So I had read this fucking thing. It was like a formula, right? And it was like, well, if you can bench this, then this is your max bench press, right? And I don't remember where it was. It was in a magazine. We didn't have online back then. Excuse me. And I put the numbers in and I added up. And it said that I can bench 225. Cool. So he says, how much you bench? I said, 225. So he looks at me at 145 pounds and he goes, no way. I said, yeah, my max bench, 225. He goes, I'm getting ready to go throw that weight on the bar downstairs and see if you can do it. I said, let's go. Like in my head, I was actually like, dude, I did the calculation. Let's go fucking do this. Fuck you, like I'm going to prove you wrong. Of course, in front of this girl that I'm friends with, but of course I like, right? So it'd be good to show off to her too, right? How strong I am, that I'm going to be stronger than her fucking stepfather, right? So we get out in the basement and he puts on like, 135 pounds or whatever it is, right? 130, whatever it is. And he does that for a couple of reps. And I get on the bench, I do it for a couple of reps. Not very good reps either. Like I got them, but it wasn't good reps. So I think he puts like 185 or whatever it was. And it wasn't like the big 45-pound plates. It was like the little weeder weights and shit that he had. So he had some more weights to it, and he barely gets it. But it's not even 200 pounds. It's like 180 pounds or something like that. So he goes, "You want to try that?" I said, "No, let's just throw the 225 on." I had it in my head that I could do it, right? Because that calculation. This is what some of those science things, you calculate this, it says this. I've had people tell me, well, I can squat 800. I'm looking, I'm like, what? It's like, well, I did 225 for 35. When I add that to formula, the Wilks formula, whatever, it gives me, and I'm like, what the fuck? So trust me, these formulas may not be all they're cracked up to be. So he puts 225 on the bar. Is this guy gonna let me in, or of course he's gonna cut me off. Puts 225 on the bar, and I lay down, and I get like all stretched out and stuff, and I get under the bar, and I'm like breathing, doing my fucking breathing techniques, which I've never done before in my life. All of a sudden now I have a breathing technique I'm going to do to bench press this massive amount of weight off my chest. And he's he's standing above me, gonna spot me, right? And we take the weight off the rack, and I lower this weight, and it drops like a fucking stone on my chest. I mean, it couldn't have pinned me any fucking harder to the bench. If it hit me any harder, it would have broke my chest, and I would have went through the bench, right? Because I couldn't even lower it at that point. I just wasn't even strong enough to lower it. But that didn't stop me from trying to get that off my chest. I started pushing and pushing, and I was turning purple, and I was grunting, and my feet were moving, and I was flailing. I was doing everything I could to get that fucking weight off my chest. And he goes and he spotted me. He goes to try to help me get it off. He couldn't fucking pull it off my chest because it was too much for him, too. He was like trying to upright row 225. He couldn't do it. So eventually the girl had to come over, and like she grabbed one side, he grabbed the other side. They kind of squatted it off my chest enough for me to a couple inches for me to fucking roll out on the floor and then put it on the bench and take the weights off of it. And I was like, I don't know what happened. I didn't have any fucking excuse because the fucking stupid formula told me I could do it, and I believed it, right? Because I believed back then whatever was in the magazines, I believed, right? And that was like a scientific formula put out by some fucking smart dude in a lab coat that was supposed to help you with your percents to know what weights to train with when you were in the gym. 8% of your max, 30% of your max, whatever. I don't know if this thing's working. Are we connected again? All right. So I lost the connection again. I don't know what's going on with Sprint today. So my this girl that used to date Dion, her father Mark, was a power lifter. Big dude too. I mean, thick, huge. Thick wrist, thick hands. He was also a mason, like he did masonry work. And I remember, like, when I first met him, he was like, "So you want to be a bodybuilder, huh?" And he's kind of looking at me, like, sizing me up, like, "Dude, you're not a bodybuilder. Like, you're a fucking kid, right?" But he never said shit to me. Like, he was never, like, negative or derogatory. He was supportive. He was supportive to me, like, 100%. So he was explaining to me, he's like, bench press, squat, deadlift. He's like, that's where you got to be at. He's like, I'm telling you, you do these exercises, you're going to be good to go. And he explained to me, how he trained and stuff. And he gave me this tip, right? Because you always want, like, tips from people because, like, what do you do that works, etc. So he gave me this tip. It was a product called Nutriment. Nutriment? Nutriment. Or Nutriment? No, Nutriment. So it was like a kind of a meal replacement you could buy at the grocery store. It was made out of milk, right? And they had, like, banana flavor, banana, strawberry, chocolate, and vanilla, I think. And each one of these cans were about $2 and some change. They were high fat content, high protein, a lot of sugar. Basically, it was just for people that were active trying to gain weight. And he told me Nutriment. So I went right to the store and bought a bunch of these Nutriments. I only had like $20 on me. I was like, 16, 17 years old. And I would drink one of these Nutriments a day. And shit, drinking those things, I started to put weight on. It was just adding calories to my diet, that I wasn't able to get in through food because I didn't have the appetite. I underestimated the diet, and I really overestimated the training. Like I put such an emphasis on the training to try to make sure that I was getting bigger that I overlooked the whole aspect of recovery and growth because I didn't know anything about it back then. I was a teenager. So my thing was, well, all I got to do is go to the gym and work out hard. And, of course I wasn't eating right, so I wasn't gaining. And then they go, okay, well, this is not working. So I must need to train more because I'm not growing. So my workouts then became about 3 hours long. And then that wasn't working. So I was like, well, I probably now have to not only train more, but I have to train harder. That makes sense, right? Train more, train harder, get better gains, get bigger faster. I'm just not training hard enough. I'm not training long enough. I'm not doing enough sets. I'm not doing enough. So next thing you know, I'm doing like 3-hour workouts with drop sets and supersets and force reps and all kinds of crazy shit. And I mean, was it working? Like, look, it was, I was gaining, I wouldn't say I was gaining a lot of size, but I was looking more muscular. I was getting leaner, from all the work that I was doing. And then I really started pushing the weight gain shakes because they were kind of cheap at the time, and it had a bunch of calories, kind of like the Nutriment, but it was like a lot more calories. So I started really pushing those weight gainer shakes, and then started like adding shit to it myself, like whole milk and eggs and peanut butter, and I'd even pour like olive oil inside the blender and shit, blend it all up, and I was getting a lot more calories like that. And then I started to get big, and I started to get big fast. My 145-pound frame. At 18 years old, I was now 153 pounds, right? Which is awesome, right? After that, 153 pounds at 18 years old. 19 years old, I'm still pounding the food, still doing the shakes, I'm still training hard. And let's see if I can get this thing to link back up again. Somebody just donated money. Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I didn't know you could donate money on these things. That's interesting. Where the hell was I? Oh, yeah, so I was still training, like, I was doing too many sets. I was still doing, too long of workouts, but I was eating enough now. And I was 19 years old, and I was kind of stuck at 205, 203, 205. I was kind of sitting there. And next thing you know, I meet an individual that I was working with at Bally's. And he sees me as a teenager, and his question to me right away was, how much you lose when you come off? And I looked right in the eye and said, come off what? He said, steroids. I said, I don't take steroids. He said, you have to take steroids. And I'm like, what? He's like, if you look like that, you need to take steroids. He said, because you're going to be really fucking big. I was like, you think so? And he knew a lot more about this stuff than me and, my training partner, Donnie, at the time. He said, well, what do you need? I said, I don't know. So I went back and talked to Donnie and said, what do we need? He said, I think we need this. So I went back and told him what we wanted. He said, I'll get it for you, no problem. And he did. He got them for us. It took him about a week. He got them for us. And once I went on that cycle, which is my first cycle, and the video is up on YouTube still about that cycle, I gained over 60 pounds in 10 weeks. It was like daily I was getting bigger. It was unbelievable. By the time I was done with that cycle, I was over 230 pounds. And I had dieted down to 173 to see like what I looked like from the chubby 205 that I was. So I went from 173 up to 230 in 10 weeks. And even my training partner, Donnie, he had actually gotten really, really sick, like maybe the second or third week we were in this, and he couldn't come to the gym. Like he was like really sick. It was like strep throat. He was pretty fucked up. So when he came back, he was downsized a little bit because he couldn't train, he couldn't eat. It was like a week or two he was out of the gym. And when he came back, I had literally put on 20 pounds. And he was like, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, how the fuck are you gaining all this weight? And I'm like, I don't know. And it took me forever to figure out why I had gained so much from that first cycle, and then everything slowed down after that. I honestly think, in my personal opinion, and this is complete bro science, I don't have anything to back this up. But when I look back, how much I was training, I was drastically overtraining. I wasn't recovering. I was doing the best I could with the meals, which was actually getting a little bit of muscle on me. But those steroids allowed my body to finally recover. It was like throwing gas on fire. All that training I had been doing, had been running myself into the ground, it was like my body caught up within 10 weeks. And it was just like fucking that. I mean, it was instantaneously just boom, done. And oh, thanks. Jeez, man, I didn't even know you guys could donate money on these things. This is really cool. Thank you, I appreciate that. But all of a sudden, I was like, this has to be what happened because Donnie and I were training the same way. We were using the same things. There was no way that my body just all of a sudden, for no reason out of the blue, just grew like that. And then I was stuck at that 230 for about a few months because it was like we had to come off at that point, and when you come off, your body weight starts to go backwards. And we tried to stay off. You know, we were on 10 weeks. We tried to stay off 10 weeks. That didn't really work out like that. You know, we wound up going back up or back on within 4 or 5 weeks after that. Some equipoise. We get some Ganabol from Dominican Republic, and we went back on that a couple cc's a week, which is like 100 milligrams of equipoise. And then realized that equipoise doesn't work like testosterone. So what we did was actually, oh, thank you, I appreciate that. That's actually pretty cool. I didn't know they could donate money. And little graphics too. Thank you. And sure enough, it was like, what are we going to do now? So we kind of went back on drugs. We experimented with a few other things. And, the next time we were on and pushing hard, like use some D-ball and, added, we were now on kind of a stack, right? Because we were on the Ganabol and then put testosterone back home. So that's big, because I was 145 when I graduated high school. Now I'm up to 245. That's 100 pounds that I gained since high school already. And then it was getting harder and harder to gain size, obviously, because my body was getting close to, where I could max out on the drugs. Like I was way beyond my natural limit, but my body was getting to the point where, those drugs, like that was pretty much it. Like it was just kind of ending there. And I remember the first time we talked about going on growth hormone, she didn't know much about it, but we knew the top guys were using it. And we knew we could get our hands on the Humatrope. Cool, let's do that. So we went on the growth hormone, and that was another like 4 or 5 pounds here, like 4 or 5 solid pounds, and you get a little more solid on it at the same time. So we're looking at about 250, 253. Again, for me, very big. And then finally, it was like, okay, we're going to have insulin into this because that goes with it. And we didn't know anybody that was actually using insulin, and I read an article by Dan Duchesne, and I just basically took that article and I ran with it, and I went to this pharmacy, I bought a bottle of insulin for $13, Humulin R. Is this thing going to come back on, or what's going on over here? Cut off? Stupid connection up. So it was really bad. I couldn't keep that weight up very long, but my goal was 300 pounds. King Kamali was 300 pounds, Jay Cutler was pushing 300 pounds, Natural Somebody was 300 pounds. So I had 300 stuck in my head because that's where you needed to be a pro. Like that's in my head, that's what I had to be. And I kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and eventually I got to the point where I was like, I really don't feel good. Like I was using Anadrol 50 that was made by Sarza and Syntax American. I'd have nosebleeds. I mean, we pushed it as far as I wanted to push it, And I realized that any further I might hurt myself. Even back then, I realized that even though there were guys around me taking like twice what I was taking, I knew it wasn't for me. So, and that was where I was comfortable with, dosage-wise for the drugs. But up to that point, I hadn't really thought much about like where do I go from here, That was like the most incredible experience. Like, I think back all the time, like, man, I've things that I've gone through, things that I've done. Like, I wish I had like some way to document it back then, like we do nowadays. Like we have these phones, we can just document everything, put it on YouTube, and you can go back and watch it. It's like you're watching a reality show of your own life. It's not even like you're watching yourself on TV sometimes. It's like you're watching a character or something, right? I wish we had that same ability back then, to capture all the things that we did and all the bro science, all the, the fun times too. That, the gym was it was hard work. Banned from Instagram because I talk too much about things they don't like. So I can't do lives on Instagram anymore. So I do live now on YouTube. Gosh, yeah, I get a lot of the same people here on YouTube that I do on Instagram watching, but I get better questions on YouTube. Instagram seemed to be kind of shitty for a little while. Now we're going to head in here, hit chest and back. Or back and chest. Back first. Back and chest. Man, a lot of places now hiring. Shit. Alright. Put it over here somewhere. Park right here. walk in the rain. Fuck it, whatever. How do you manage? This thing disconnect again? Come on, reconnect. All right, there we are. Finally reconnected. For me, you can go on medication, right? Lonosil, something like that, atenolol, or you can keep giving blood. So, when you give blood, it reduces the blood volume. The blood volume reduces the blood pushing against your arteries and your veins, etc., capillaries, which is what blood pressure is. It's pressure pushing against them. So the less blood volume you have, the lower your blood pressure is going to be. So giving blood once a month is good. If you need it more than that, a doctor can give you a prescription where you go in, you show them the script. Otherwise, they're not going to take you more than once a month. They have you on the computer. You can show them the prescription, and they'll draw blood, pretty much every week if that's what the doctor wants. But you got to have really high hemoglobin level for them to do that. Mine was like 19, I think, or something like that, and they wanted it at 15. Oh, our gyms are open here. Here in Fairfax, here in Virginia, all of our gyms are open. Everything's open. I'm at the shop right now, which is pretty much the only place that I train right now. But, yeah, what the hell? I thought we were going to have a sunny day today. What the fuck happened here? How come the weatherman, much like Dr. Fauci, can be wrong so fucking often and still keep his job? Could you imagine if we fucked up and we were wrong like 85% of the time? We'd lose our jobs. These guys are like, sunny day tomorrow. It's thunderstorms, tornadoes. You're like, fuck. I'm like, anyways, I'm like delaying getting out of this fucking ring because I know it's cold as shit. Fauci's the only guy. He's the highest paid individual in the entire government. He's been wrong about 95% of the time with all this stuff. How the fuck? How, like, he gets paid more than the president. He gets paid more than anybody else in the entire government. He's the highest paid individual in the government. And he's like this rock star that's like always on TV, and people have like T-shirts with his face on it and stuff, and his sayings on it and stuff, and he's the expert, and he's this, he's that, and then he's always like wrong. They're like, that's okay. Listen, you could be working at any other job. I don't give a shit. You could be working at a bank. You could be working at Walmart. You could be working at a shoe store like Al Bundy. You could be working anywhere. If you're wrong 85% of the time, you will not have that job more than a few weeks, if not a month. This dude's had his for like 40 years, so I don't know. Apparently, because I have a friend that, one of my former clients who used to work for the government, and he was like, dude, he goes, it's you can't get fired working for the government. He's like, I could do cocaine on my desk with, I haven't seen Army of the Dead yet. No, I got to check it out. He's like, I can do cocaine on my desk with a crack pipe in one hand and underage hooker in the other hand. He goes, and literally my boss would walk by, and all he'd have to do is like, listen, we're going to send you home for the day. I'm going to have to write you up. And then you're going to have to go through like rehab and go through like a psychological evaluation and stuff. He's like, and even then, all I have to do is pass that shit. He's like, I still won't get fired. He's going to get every other Friday off, right? So he only worked a 40 week for like 2 weeks a month. Great benefits, great everything. And half the time he was on Amazon shopping. He wasn't even fucking working or texting me. So I'm like, how the fuck does that work? Because other jobs, like you're on Amazon shopping. If you were at Amazon working there and you were constantly fucking around, you'd be fired. Government jobs. He'd say it all the time. He's like, government jobs, man. He's like, get a government job. You'd be good to go. And now after seeing the Fauci thing, I'm like, I agree. I agree 100%. Get a government job if you can, and just fucking stay there. Stay there till you retire or die, one or the other. All right, no more slacking, guys. I need to get in and get this shit done. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's good to talk to you guys today. I know we're ending May and getting ready for June. Summer's here, guys. Despite the cold weather and raininess here, summer is here. I'm excited to just have the change in scenery, to have some fun, and I'm excited to be gaining a little bit of muscle again for this movie role that I'm getting entrenched in right now. So, day one, back in action. Well, you know what? I'm going to call this Build Back Better. That's what I'm going to call this. I'm going to go in the gym and I'm going to start training today. I'm going to build back better. Just like they're talking about building the country back, I'm going to build myself back better. I think that's going to be the whole theme behind this whole shtick. Have a great day, guys. See you soon.